millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people.
You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist.
Produced by a nuclear exchange would be carried by wind and water and soil and sea to the far corners of
The kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end. We're saying that planet Earth is about to be refurbished, spaded under, and have another chance to serve as a garden for another civilization.
Most of the people on here are just your reflections. They're your mistakes.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
1 million of the planet's 8 million species are threatened.
You are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act.
Your lives and the credibility of the United Nations is at stake.
I've seen him kill himself.
The reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization.
They're trying to take you out with bullshit.
The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish.
In the language of the U.S. Department of Defense, these are unidentified aerial phenomena.
Roswell's a very interesting place. There's a lot of people that would like to know what's going on. There's very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This is the Garden of Doom.
Welcome everyone into Garden of Doom. Happy Spooktober. Happy coming on Halloween. And we're very excited to have another guest from New Orleans coming into us this episode. And special thanks to Voodoo Authentica and Mambo Brandy who made this personal referral. So I'm welcoming in Bloody Mary. Does the ghost tours down there, owns the Haunting Museum or the Haunted Museum. I'm going to let her do a better job of introducing herself than I just did because she just told me all this, and at 54, I can't remember anything hold it in my head for more than 2 minutes. So welcome to the show, Bloody Mary. Thank you so much for coming into the garden.
Greetings. Nice to meet you. And yes, I'm Voodoo Queen Bloody Mary. I am a paranormal investigator, a historian, a mambo and a yaya. I own the Haunted Museum and Paranormal Center with also a full, voodoo shop and tour company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do all sorts of things and have been teaching about the many worlds around us professionally for 30 years, but doing it my whole life, which is longer than yours. I'll leave it at that,
Yeah. Well, you already know my age, so I'm sure that you're correct. So anyway, I want to know what led you on this journey. What was the path? Because usually there's something in someone's youth that almost dictated the path for them.
Yes and no. I wouldn't say one thing. I would say, almost everything. So I would say did you hear that beep? Okay. Nope. Trying to see what you hear. I usually explain it as they woke me up. They started it. And I always had to know why. So I started researching at an early age, but it was pretty simple because the answers and the people with the answers pretty much came to me. I spent a lot of time in the graveyard. I spent a lot of time in church. I spent a lot of time in Catholic school. And a lot of people that talked about the spirit world. So my questions they may not have liked, but to me it's like, well, you just talked about that this saint and this could do this spirit and talk to the spirit. Well, what's the difference with what I see and what I do? And so there was a lot of whys, and I got a lot of different answers. And then I just start talking to the spirits direct, and they talk back sometimes, or they show me different things.
How old was it when you realized that you were speaking to spirits?
Oh, right away. I mean, as far as I know, I mean, I grew up knowing about spirits, and as I said, maybe from more of a religious aspect. So why would I think that was any different? Why wouldn't I be able to get the same visitations and such that holy people in the world got, in a different age? So I always assumed the spirits were amongst us. And I didn't really get any flack about it till I was around an adolescent. So I would just ask, just more or less believe it was all like angels or saints or something like that. So yeah, talk to a lot of people.
Who
Mhm.
who was the first spirit who identified themselves to you, and was it someone that you knew
No,
or were related
no.
to? No.
I didn't know any of these people. No, no. They just woke me up. And I go away, go away. I guess the first one I had was more or less a nature spirit of forms. You might say fairy or something, a diva. And she was kind of a little helper, and I followed her around a lot. So I'd say that was the one that was the more regular one, though different things may have awoken me, or I maybe saw in a graveyard or something like that. But I didn't, know who they were. They just kind of walked by, and I just figured, hey, I'm in a graveyard. You know, it was a pretty innocent kind of like, oh yeah, well I guess they're supposed to be here. Uh,
Right.
in New Orleans and in the time period, we spent a lot of time in the graveyards before, after church. So we played a lot while parents and grandparents were doing their thing. And I noticed unusual things in New Orleans, like offerings and food and toys. And, it's like, okay, why? I'd talk to someone there. I'd go look at the stuff. And, sometimes I go, oh, don't touch that. And others, it was like, why? Why shouldn't I touch it? So in the graveyards, maybe they followed me home. Maybe it was my ancestors. I didn't know all of their names, but I noticed enough to have to start reading and researching and asking questions.
Okay. You indicated that one was maybe a deva or a fairy, fae folk. Were others sort of elementals or
No,
what we might call luminaries? Or no, they were
there were
just
there were
deceased souls.
more humanoid, if you want to call it that. But then there were some things that I guess were rather a little bit angelic as well. So there were all the above until around adolescence that it got to be a little more, let's say, sexual. So then it was like, okay, now things are changing. Now maybe it's not all this. Let me look up what this is and try to figure that out. Or, more aggressive, more, but that's around the same time that you're verging on adolescence. You're changing. It's noticed by those around you. It's attracting different spirits. So, it logically makes sense now. It never scared me, by the way. I was not really scared. I'm relatively unflappable. So I believe that, if they were there and they want to play, if they were there and they wanted to eat, I believe fear is a 4-letter word. And the more that you fear, and the more that you do your lovely hashtag, it's a demon crap, the more you're going to attract something darker that could possibly cause some harm to your psyche or whatever. I believe there's so much out there in the flesh and in between that you just have to find that balance and not walk with fear. Know who you are and just communicate.
The humanoids that made contact with you and you spoke to, did they have any common theme? Did they have unfinished
Oh,
business,
I don't believe.
or were they just
Yeah, no common theme. There's no such thing. No. Just
okay?
like you, I
So it
can't say,
was
all those podcasters, did they have a common theme? No.
oh, we do. We all think we should be
Well,
famous. There's that.
aspects, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Now, do they? So, but there wasn't. They weren't all like. I know the word is trite when talking about spirits and ghosts, but were they weren't all haunted by something. Some of them were just happy to have someone who could hear them.
Sure. Yeah, all of the above. It's just like people. Not everybody that you meet
Okay.
is haunted by something. I mean, there is if you dig deep enough. You can always find something. But most of I think some of them are there to help you, to show you the way. Some are just there because you're in the way. Unfinished business is multi-leveled. The reason they're here might be to help them, which would help you, which would help them. Like earning their wings, so to speak, in the in between.
Right.
So I believe that a spirit could do a lot of spirit growth in the in between time. If you're talking about being born again or as you crossed over, I don't believe in a solid over there, over here, kind of existence. The way I've done this too long and too deep for that. They all, they have a lot of reasons that they might want to come back and visit or stay. It's not just one thing. So that's what I mean by common theme. It wouldn't be that common because we're all individuals. We all have different needs and we all have different ways that we can help other people. But I believe that spirits, if they need to have any help, that we can help them and they can help us. And it's a mutual, it should be a mutual thing.
When you say come back, you said there's all sorts of different people and spirits. Are they coming back from different places, or are they all coming from the same place?
No,
Okay, so
no
what
one
are the
single
examples?
thing, like religion tries to teach you. I mean, it's a fluid matrix. We all have different destinies. We're all at different levels of our evolution in the flesh. And then the next stage that we go to, hopefully we can, grow a little bit more. But yeah, there's a bazillion different places and reasons, soul families that you're a part of, and you can come and I believe that most can come and go. Some are lucky and very evolved and don't have to come back. Others choose to come back to watch over or help people, or because they're just trying to get something, done in this world or for themselves. So there's a million reasons. There's never one reason.
Do they ever mention the names of the places that they
No.
come from? I mean, obviously, okay, so they don't say heaven, hell, purgatory, limbo, Tartarus, Agartha, nothing like that.
I've not. I mean, I don't really ask too much on the where, because as I said, I don't think it's over there, over here. I think there's they're traveling. There's a lot of different places, but I don't really ask where are you coming from that often. Many of them are, more in the astral plane, or some of them are still a little bit more stuck in the terrestrial. But I don't ask a lot of where.
Okay.
Plus, I
You
don't
gave
believe
the
in just heaven or hell. I believe in multi, it's not like a black and white kind of thing, either or,
oh yeah, no, I mean any names would have been
Yeah,
interesting.
I've never asked. I don't ask much. I'm more individually worried about them. Can I help you? What are you doing? How can I help you? How are things? Do you need, what's going on? Why are you here?
Maybe that's why they like you, because you don't ask them where they're from, and then you just want to know what you can do to help them.
And what they want to do. Why are they here? Or sometimes it's like, leave me alone. I want to go to sleep too. I'm not always right on the money, but I try. We try. But I'll talk to the proverbial good or proverbial bad, because it all depends on the day for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
To a point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course. Yeah, no, you don't want to turn to Dr. Evil on us. So you mentioned a couple of different titles. So if you could go through those titles and sort of just, sort of define what they are.
Religiously. My titles as priestess? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as priestess, I'm in New Orleans tradition, specifically the Marie Laveau tradition. That is what the high priestess is called, the queen. So I'm voodoo queen in New Orleans tradition, which I have. I'm one of the few that actually focuses on New Orleans voodoo. People might say, "Oh, I do that," but there are people there's voodoo in New Orleans and there's New Orleans voodoo, and it's not the same thing. Because people bring other types of voodoo from all over here, where we did have our own, which I focus on, and that I'm queen in. I'm Mambo Asagwe in Haitian voodoo, which is brought here obviously from Haiti, and I'm Yaya Nakisi Malongo in the Congo, the Congo religion as well. Then I'm a Mama Isi of the river. I'm a licensed hypnotist. I am a healer in Kujien Qigong. I also do hoodoo, born and raised Catholic, twinned in a Celtic religion. I'm a paranormal investigator and ghost hunter, but more of a shaman. And I've been nicknamed the necrotherapist at times. I've been doing this a long time, so I've gotten lots of titles over the places. But it's like continuing education. You know, you want to
Mhm.
continue to learn more, so you go to another level, another style that's complementary to what you're doing to fill in the gaps, to maybe to if something feels missing or like what else you need. And you have a whole bunch of different groups that you go to, and there's a variety of forms of initiation. And before you say it or somebody out there is like, no, only man has said that you've got to pick one. One religion. That's only something that man imposed, right? You can
Mhm.
be all or none, because they really are all one. It's the humans that fight over it, not the spirits.
I think that you're probably right about that. Um, can you give us some of the distinguishing factors or the unique factors? What makes New Orleans voodoo different than other voodoo?
Uh, well, the way that it was brought up, the way that it was here was a very historic impact. In other areas where voodoo might have been more hidden, and then through revolution and later time emerged. It was kind of the opposite here. It grew side by side with the colony, overt, where people would practice it and watch it, like at Congo Square, and go to voodoo priestesses and healers' homes to get talismans and different healing items, you might say, or work done. So unlike other areas that it was hidden and then clandestinely found its way back, it was here open for everyone. But the most unique things, and where my studies really lied a lot, was the fact that New Orleans is the most matriarchal voodoo out of all, and was about 80% historically female. So that's unique. The retention of the dance of the snake, a few things. So the openness of it at the time, which didn't go under until the early, probably 20th century, if at all. It didn't go under all the way, just kind of wasn't as overt as it was before the Civil War. So New Orleans voodoo is unique that way, and it was the only one, I guess, really that strong held here. They'll argue, oh, Louisiana voodoo, New Orleans voodoo. New Orleans is different than Louisiana. Landlocked Louisiana is a totally different animal. The small towns all around, totally different animal. It's not found better and more so deeper in the swamps. Some of them have been more scared of the spirits out there than in the city, which was so used to people and stories and ideas and elements coming from all over as a port town. So New Orleans voodoo, and especially its mystical hoodoo part, the folk magic part, had all sorts of influences from European to on top of the African, the Native American, all of the ones that were around here. If it worked, you used it. Everybody traded back then. It wasn't necessarily thought of as cultural appropriation, but people just forget that New Orleans was not an American city. We are the gateway to the Caribbean. We're a Latin Catholic town with our own language and our own customs. My family's been here since 1718, so frankly, my joke was, I was related to half the ghosts here, and that's why they woke me up. They pushed me on to research, to find out more, to do this and that. So yeah, we're a Latin Catholic root and the gateway to the Caribbean. We're also an island, but the landlocked areas weren't as open, weren't as used to all the different peoples that came here. So, you have to look at us that way and stop thinking of us as an American colony. And you'll understand why we have a voodoo and a lot of other things about the culture, and why we're so tolerant of the spirit world and have been from the very beginning. I think that's the difference, too, is that from the very beginning of our town and writing down spirit stories from the Native Americans, and there was always this spirit enthusiasm here. Maybe there was more fear of the ghosts, but there was always a belief in the supernatural in New Orleans. And, there's always been good ghost stories, and they've been handed down and written and rewritten, and they're still alive.
What is the significance of the snake? You mentioned something about the snake earlier.
Well, there's
So
a ton
yeah,
of
go ahead.
significances about the snake and the snake principle, but the simple one that most people realize, is the constant. The snake would be shedding its skin, starting anew, the cycle of life, renewal, energy. It's the Da principle. It's so many different things. Many spirits are associated with the snake, and you can think of it like the Oracle of Delphi if you want, dancing with a snake and drawing down the power through it into you. You can also, it's a dance religion and a musical religion too, but the spirit world, the ancestors, are a very large part of it. So when I do what I do it from a both voodoo as well as paranormal, as well as shamanic and seance type of way that we connect with the spirits. So I don't just break out a K2 meter. We'll also give them a shot of wine, and we might dance with the snake or not, might do all of that. So there are many spirits that have the snake as part of the symbol. The ones everyone knows about would be Damballa and Aidoido, known to you also as the serpent in the rainbow. They're very exalted spirits. They're very high in the energy level, and they're like a cosmic mother and father wrapping around the world egg. So, that's a very benevolent symbol, but of course the other religions would go, ooh, the devil, all that. So you got the
Right. That
snake,
was
but
the
we're at
thing
the
with.
mouth of the Mississippi. That's the big ass snake. This is all about river magic. So of course we still dance with the snake and move and undulating motions, even if you're not carrying the snake. You're part of it here. And spirits want to dance. They want to party. They want to come and smell the good food. They want to drink. So New Orleans is I always say it's a port town on the physical plane, but it's a portal on the spiritual. So they keep coming.
Excellent. That's great. Yeah, you're right. The snake has gotten a bad rap with some of the more
Right. Yeah. But that's the only
newer
one.
versions.
Everybody else likes the snake. That's a
Pretty
big,
much. Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. I actually stumbled upon that quite accidentally while doing the show. So I'm glad to hear some verification from someone who has so many different titles in all these different belief systems, disciplines.
Well, they're kind of all, an ancient shamanic type of belief system. I mean, it's not witchcraft, but there's elements of witchcraft in the hoodoo or the folk magic part. But the European religions and old religions or classical religions, or Wiccan, or which is the new name for it, and then the witchcraft. It's not that. It's closer, I think, to Native American Indian shamanism. It's more about the dance and the movement and the healing and the herbs and the contact. But it's definitely a little more distinct with the spirit world. Everyone and everything has a lingering soul or ghost that exists after the physical body is gone. So your near ancestors or your parents, treat them well. They have a vested interest in taking care of you after they're gone, and your children's children as well. So we're like a family unit, dead or alive. Honor the ancestors, give them some coffee in the morning, give them a shot, invite them out. And then the ones not yet born, they're pulling you forward. So it's this big line. Um, and of course, you encounter so many out there because we're a very crowded worlds, all around. And some places, like New Orleans, is one. We're also a big river city, that has a lot of water, and they travel through. New Orleans is very old school, spirit filled, and we don't like to tear down our buildings at the drop of a hat, so it holds a lot of that energy here. And they're diehard New Orleanians as well as the ones that are still got flesh on them.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about the paranormal investigation. First of all, how did you get into it, and what was your first paranormal investigation, or what are some of your favorites?
Well, I mean, today people have a particular idea that a paranormal investigation is going to be like those TV shows, which I do, but I did it long before those TV shows. I do not believe that you should dwell on instruments and technology alone. I believe that they are there to help verify your own intuition, because you want to communicate with the spirits. I have a lot of different different things that we use in paranormal investigations, because people see all that on TV. I just don't think that you should become dependent upon a particular device, that you should try to enhance your own intuitiveness and use them as a backup. So a lot of different things can be used as paranormal investigations. So one of my favorite things early on was, ghost photography. I taught that for a good 20 something years. Had a ghost photo gallery up since 1998, I think. And that's part of my haunted museum still today. So I would like cameras, and I always bring a gift or some kind of food. Then later on, we start bringing other instruments. But when I do investigations, let's say in my house or in my museum, we have a lot of things that are set up, including video cameras to watch what happens, intelligent past, recurring issues at certain areas. So seeing spirits, hearing spirits. But I'm kind of like a booster. I'm also a psychic medium. I do seance a lot, and I'm a booster by helping others enhance their intuitiveness, their psychic abilities. So I try to help them breathe and connect and communicate. So teaching communication as well as verification with handheld devices so that I could be on the go. Also, you're better because you don't need batteries. Many things just start breaking out in the wild, and you got to watch out. you know but I have inside places that things set up that we can use paranormal devices, ghost boxes. Everybody loves dowsing rods, K2 meters, the all kind of things. And we also have REM pods, and I love Boo Bear. I mean, I've got tons and tons of stuff.
Have you ever verified anything that wasn't a ghost but fit into a different
Oh
category?
yeah. But I say ghosts, but I might mean multidimensional beings, because I
Okay.
will just kind of put them in that category, because there's many life forms that are out there, and I don't try to judge them like, oh, angel, demon. I just, hey, how you doing? I don't care if you're good or bad. You're not going to hurt me, so chill. So I have encountered some primordial entities, you might say, that don't have any form of anthropomorphic familiarities. Difficult to communicate with, difficult to help transform or protect from, and such. So yes, I spent years, especially after Katrina, since something nasty was unleashed here, to try to fix and bring things back and change things with all forms of rituals, from Christian to Wiccan to Tibetan to beyond. There was so many different types of things there. So I would like to put those in a classification of like squatters, like just something that's in something, just feeding, but mindless, but with a purpose, if that makes any sense. Like, you can't necessarily communicate like you would, you and me, or talk them out of something or plead your way out of it. It was just, you can get out of the way, you can trick them, you can do this. So yes, I have met other entities. I don't have a problem with fae folk. A lot of people seem to be really weirded out by them in the community. You'll hear people saying, oh, well, you don't ever deal with the fae, they're evil. And like, that is not true. To the fae, we are evil. We are the ones that destroyed their worlds and their lives, and we're messing with nature and things. It is us. So I go in from a perspective of trying to gain their trust, to let them know I'm not like that. And then there's some darker spirits that you run into that might be murderers. Doesn't mean they want to murder you. You got a lot of murders history in New Orleans. I'm in a spot that had a very intense murder, which people don't understand. If you're counseling someone, a priest doesn't not let you come in if you've done something wrong. You have to try to work with everyone, but you don't have to fear that, because they mean they were after you. So a lot of spirits need counseling, need help, need prayer, need laughter, need music, not just your traditional, oh, holy, holy. Play them a song, give them a beer, like you do with your friend when they're upset, right? Put on some music,
Sure.
go out, let's go talk.
I mean, theoretically, if I had a friend. Yeah.
Well, don't you have some invisible ones?
I'm going to work on that.
So you do a podcast about ghosts, but you don't have a lot of ghosts around you?
I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention to the right things.
Well, that's true. A lot of people don't, if they're too busy with their mind chatter.
Yeah, that's been a constant struggle of mine, the old mind chatter problem. Speaking of some of my mind chatter, I was having some while you were speaking, and it comes to, you invoked a lot of, First Nations and other traditions, belief systems where there's more than one age of man, and we might be in the fifth age of man, or and then some people say, it's Atlantis, everything's Atlantis. I know that, but the name doesn't matter. Like ghost, the word doesn't matter. It's some sort of prior age of man. And what I'm getting to are any of the entities that you encounter, do you believe that they are from some prior age of man, or that's the question.
Some
Have you
of
ever
them,
encountered
yes.
anyone?
Some of them, sometimes. Depends on what I'm working on at the time. And yes, I bumped into, I desperately called, pulled, coerced whatever you want to call it, people from all times here after Katrina to try to do a healing because there was such devastation and the spirit of the soul of the city itself was actually sucked out and destroyed. So I went back to find like the architects is who I call them blanketly, who built this area and who built it before man was here, and the spirits of place to try to bring them back. So yes, I believe that there's different ages and there still could be watchers over the place. Some of them are sleeping and maybe only get woken in devastating times like that, but they're there. So yes, I have been to different times, different places, astral journeys, rituals at other times. I've been taught things, things have been brought here. I would say that I had that as some of my more earlier training. Let's say for the first 15, 20 years at the beginning of doing this, and now hit and miss to fill in when I need it. So sometimes it's more accessible than others. Sometimes you're at a spot that you're supposed to be doing something else. So we'll see what this next plateau brings. But yes, there are people from different places, different time periods that are still there. They would be considered ascended masters by most people, that will contact you and help. But I had everything after Katrina from actual angels who were the most pain in the butt, by the way. The angels, very fearful, very loud, very dramatic. It was like, really? I had angels, I had a few monsters. And one monster who wasn't really a monster at all, really cool. And I didn't even know who he was at the time. This was 18 years ago, right? Mothman came after pleading to try to bring out of the depths something to help heal us. As I said, I didn't know what it was. It took a while to figure it out. But anyway, there was all different kinds from different places. Yes. So multidimensional beings to me makes a lot more sense than just ghosts or spirits. And I do believe that the cryptids are interdimensional beings as well. So we have our own, swamp monsters, which are kind of put into the paranormal field, like the Loup-garou and the Rougarou. But they have a spirit aspect too, that you can talk to that may be able to be the part that travels back and forth easier.
All right, well, we're going to get back to the Loup-garou and the Rougarou because you can't just say words
I
with that without
can't?
following.
Oh, damn it, but I just did.
Right. Well, yeah, we're not done yet.
Okay.
But when you encounter any of these entities from prior ages, do any of them say, "Hey, listen, this is what happened to us. You're going down this path. This is how you can avoid it as a people"? Or do any
Not
do
in
any of them
any
give
kind
you
of
a warning?
long-winded sentence, no.
Well, that's my specialty. I mean, I'm sure that
No, but I mean, if I'm
they've
lucky, I
evolved.
get one word and a symbol. I don't get like humanoid whole sentence
Mm.
speeches, occasionally. But more often, they'll show me something, give me something, point to something, show, like that way instead of like, hey, listen, you don't get that human kind of. Come on here, let me tell you something. Come over here. I don't usually get it like that. It's not impossible, but I don't get a lot of, words, a lot of words. I get a lot of symbols, which mean a million words.
Okay. Are you able to distinguish which ones are helpful and which ones are just maybe you're having a little fun?
Usually. You mean the entities themselves, if they're messing with me or if they're, yeah. I don't get too many. I get a few tricksters. They just more or less hide things and do things, but they don't usually come and try to give any kind of false information or anything. I think I might see through them a little bit more, because I'll just say, you're trying to mess with me, like I'll just say right out. I was like, I'm gonna fall for that.
So the symbols would they be something that people would recognize if they've studied ancient
No,
symbols
it's not
or
like that.
Nordic runes? It's
No,
not like
it's
that.
not like that. I mean, it could be, but that's not what I meant. I meant
It's
if,
more of a vision.
let's say something the other night, I don't know what it was. We got like there's a Sherlock Holmes hat that I saw on a shadow figure in a seance, and I was like, I only know that I have to say what I see, and I see a Sherlock Holmes hat, and they said, yeah, they always call me the inspector because I have so much details, and he would know that, and he called me that. So that was the symbol that person showed me to verify that to her that it was her friend that she was hoping for. So a symbol could be an ancient ankh bedazzled and jeweled, or it could be a damn Sherlock Holmes hat. It could be a green elephant, which was always my story. If I worry about my ego and my mind chatter, and I worry about what people are going to think of me, or, oh, ego doesn't mean that I'm so great always. It also means like, oh, I'm going to sound stupid. I'm going to look bad. I'm going to lose face. But if all I can see is green elephants, then I have to say green elephants. If it makes no sense, it's a symbol. And the girl broke down and cried and said, my aunt just died. I was cleaning up her house. She had a whole collection of green elephants. It took me out all day. I was packing them, not knowing, how important they were. And green elephants came through. So, you just are the channel of which things go through. So you have to learn to just try to, and some of the symbols are things you don't even know. I remember one time, it's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's like kind of like a hammer, but it's small. And there's like a pointy end and it's silver. I don't know what to say. The best way I could say is, it looks like a very girly hammer. Like I didn't know that was a stupid way to put it, but that's how I it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, that's my, that's a toffee hammer. And me and my uncle smashed toffee together. I never heard of a toffee hammer. But it was a symbol, but it's not like an ancient geometric design. But I get those too.
Very cool. Okay, those two words you just there was something with an L, and then
The
there was a
loup-garou is the French word for werewolf. The rougarou, which means red, the red-eyed one, was kind of what it was called in the Louisiana swamps. So even though, yes, he can be a were-being, they're also more that they can they can use a variety of different animals to turn into. And as the legend evolves these days, they don't even have to turn into an animal. They can be an inanimate object as well. So as time goes on, maybe things get a little less scary, but they still have this changeling state. And a monster is relative. Your ex might be a monster to you, but she might be wonderful to the neighbors down the block, right? It all depends on what you're coming at them with. So the rougarou and the loup-garou, in many cases, are also the protectors of the forest. And if you're coming in to rape the forest, cut down all the trees, and build condominiums or put mobile homes, they might be, trying to scare you to get you the hell out of here, right? But if you're there to become one with nature, talk to the fae, plant some new things, they might befriend you and help you. So your motives can be read on you like wearing a layer of clothing. Spirits see you for your bloodline, for your intentions. They don't see just your physical the way that you and I look at each other. They see you quite differently. So if your heart is real and open, it is usually accepted, especially if you verify that with words and the visuals that you give back to them. There's many ways to speak.
Now, if I was going to book one of your tours, where would you take me, and what would be the reasons for it? What would be the tales or the realities?
It depends on who you are. If you're a person that really wants to get in touch with the spirit world and we're doing something private, I customize a way to bring you to the more important spots to help open up and develop your intuitiveness and to teach you the spirit of place of New Orleans. I might take you to a power site, give offerings. I might go around and show you the cemeteries, introduce you to the dead. I might take you to a haunted house. I might take you to my house. So it all depends on the person. I have different levels. I stopped doing the pretty much big commercial tours many years ago because so many people come into town and it's a big Groupon thing. I do more exclusive things now. I do ghost hunts and ghost tour combos. I do whole city combos. I do workshops, seance and ghost hunt combos. All of it is a learn and do, so you are able to participate and expand in your connections. I'm not trying to convert anyone. I don't care if you believe or not. I just want to plant the seed of possibility for you to look at all the research that's out there in the world and see how that can change or not change your life. So yeah, I do it as a healing, and I do healings and readings and all kind of stuff.
What are some of the more famous ghost-related stories surrounding New Orleans?
Well, everybody's favorite these days, because of American Horror Story, seems to be the bloody, gory Madame LaLaurie story, which is the one that Kathy Bates played her role, tortured her slaves. It's a very dark tale, and it was a very hard time in New Orleans. And she escaped. She got away with it, I guess you might say. But her ghost is still here. Her ghost is very much still here and interactive, and that gave a whole new generation of people an incline to the life. Of course, it was totally wrong historically, but nobody understands fiction anymore. They think everything they hear is real, so we just have to kind of re-explain it. Now, one thing I should say is that the casting was way wrong. That ghost was not a Kathy Bates. She wasn't happy about the casting. I knew it. I got a call from the director of the set to do a banishing or exorcism on the set because everyone there had a negative paranormal experience or two in front of the camera and behind the camera. You can't just go ahead and do what you want to do on TV and not expect repercussions. You open gates, but you don't close them, or you open them 8 times and close them 8 times. Chaos and problems. You know. That leaves a lingering trail of problems. And then somebody's got to sometimes come clean it up. They should do these things before they start shooting instead of after. So, there were actual problems that did happen with a lot of horror movies or, supernatural things that are shot. But that one for sure I know because we went there and tried to see what we could do to sprinkle a little bit of powder I'd made to kind of calm down the set and the people on it. But so yes, there's that. She's the most famous story, and then of course Marie Laveau, who had nothing really to do with Madame LaLaurie, but because of that show they were in together, everybody gets the two confused. Marie Laveau was a spirit who's almost like a patron saint. She's a spirit mother over New Orleans, known as a Loa in voodoo, but she's a folk saint that people went to her tomb. Her tomb is, you can't leave offerings at her tomb like people did since her death in 1881, as of 4 or 5 years ago, I believe. And now it's limited access to get into the cemetery, but people still go to her house, let's say, where her house used to be, and leave things. So altars are for her all over town. So that's kind of a spirit that watches over, that has a lot of history, and everybody wants to know about Marie Laveau. Then the dark side, everybody wants to know about, Madame LaLaurie, and there's, of course, 1,000 stories in the middle. I have a dark tale at my place. It's a murder-suicide thing that happened after Katrina. It's definitely a cautionary tale, and it's relatively recent. And it's really a message out there to keep your life in order, to face your demons when they attack. And I'm not talking about Christian demons or biblical demons. I'm talking about your own shadow, your own problems. Don't just put it aside and wait for a rainy day, because that rainy day here was Katrina, a hurricane. And then you had new PTSD to couple on top of the other PTSD. So, everybody went what we call Katrina crazy. So the energy here was weird. But the most interesting thing about it is that our ghosts seemed to leave. Now, not the dark side, it crept around, but the ghosts almost like evacuated with the families and were flatlined. Just the opposite of what I expected when I got back in a month after, the floodwaters had left. So, yeah, you have a lot of different things at different times. The classic ghosts like Jean LaFitte the pirate and, Marie Laveau the voodoo queen and a variety of others are definitely still all around town. And then there's a lot of regular Joes who make up the world, whose spirits might be seen just walking in and out of a place. My house here, this is my private home that we're in right now, has recently been voted the top 10 scariest moments on all of Ghost Adventures. And I do hundreds of TV shows, almost 1,000 at this point, actually now. Hundreds of TV shows that have come here and interviewed me, but some that actually investigated the house. And I wouldn't say anything drastic or devastating happened here, except, of course, me. Other than that, it wasn't any trails of murders or this and anything like that. But it left its imprint. And there's a lot of spirits that are around me, a lot of spirits that came with the house, spirits that came with my haunted collection, and spirits that come in with the people that I bring in and come and go. So I have a lot of spirits here, but I'm in the Encyclopedia of America's Haunted Houses, but it's not because of an incident that you're looking for, right? But there were lots of spirits here, and there's at least 13 we know by name at my museum. And then there's the biggies, like Laveau, LaLaurie, LaFitte. You got to have an L in your name, I think.
Well, yeah, I guess so. It's Louisiana.
True.
How do you curate a haunted museum?
Oh, sometimes it curates you. I already had a haunted collection. I had traveled with it. I had a haunted collection and a mini ghost photo gallery, mini museum behind the Voodoo Museum pre-Katrina, which is, by the way, where I met Brandy, because she used to work there, and my sister still works there. Before we split off on our own different directions, and I had different stuff that was back there then. So you know, lots of different things I brought from there. Then people know me, see me on TV. Oh, I got to send you this. I need to know about this. Can you look at this? I have things handed down from the family. I have occult items that have been used by people like Marie Laveau. And I use her items that I have inherited a lot of her stuff, not inherited, purchased, curated. And she found me, and she got the guy to find me. And I use those artifacts in current blessings and rituals so that I can have her with me even closer, right? So I go to the places that have the most stories, and something ends up coming home with me. One way or the other, I find something that they're getting rid of, they call and give me something, or I've collected things throughout the ages, and I go to a lot of yard sales. Oh, actually,
And
one
you
of the bigger
said
things that I've got was a poor box from Mother Cabrini's orphanage. It brought tons of children, and I bought it at the oldest building, one of the top 5 oldest buildings in New Orleans, out here by the Bayou, a week before Katrina at the Customs House. And I bought everything they had that I could afford out of the cash in my pocket, because it was only cash. And I got tools that built all the old houses, and that's where all sort of famous people and regular Joes were in. I was going to buy the rest of it the next week, but Katrina happened. I had so many kids in my house all the time. I assumed they were following me from the graveyard, since I was like the first one that did the evening graveyard tours, the only one for like 25 years. And then I took that and moved when I got the museum 6 years ago. I moved a lot of the stuff that I had collected down there. And all the kids went down there. I realized, okay, that's where most of the kids are coming from. I invite them back, telling them they're my foster kids, but the poor box from the orphanage brought many, many children with it.
Who was Marie Laveau in life?
A free woman of color that was born in New Orleans in 1801. She was born in the cottage that she inherited from her grandmother, who was a freed slave. So she was a free woman of color who was kind of like doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, all rolled into one. She was a devout Catholic. She was an incredible healer. And she was always talked about. I see familiarity there. Controversy surrounded her, but she was very religious, very pious, very good healer, a traiteur as she was known, a great sidekick, worked with community and spirits, and she was always there to help others, especially with children. And she went and prayed with the prisoners and some murderers. She was always in the jail, helping them, all sorts of things. She was a dynamic woman in her day who had at least 7 children, and some say up to 15, but records I think are of 7, all of which except one died before she did. So in the time of our highest plagues of yellow fever and cholera, she was tirelessly nursing many and raising children and helping community all at the same time. So she was an incredible, or is an incredible role model, even if you're not into voodoo or spirituality. Look at as a woman in her day, fighting against insurmountable odds and still being strong and remembered to this day. There's a lot of levels of Marie Laveau, from spiritual, from ghost to, the human woman. Her life was not charmed that everything was easy by any means, but she kept going.
And you said she's sort of like the guardian spirit
I say that
of
she's
the
a
place?
patron saint because my family, a lot of people don't understand that because they're not from here, or they were born here, but their family wasn't from here. My great-great-grandmother lived across the street from Marie Laveau, and my grandmother and my great-grandmother. The 3 of them were born and lived in a building across the street and knew her. And they referred to, they might have used the term patron saint, and others would say folk saint. because, people still went to her tomb for healing even after death, and that's what saints do. But in voodoo, she's an exalted ancestor, and she's a Loa because her spirit would be elevated to that status to her followers after. But she was known as a patron saint of New Orleanians, doctors, nurses, and I've been hearing that, since in the 60s, and she's still around. Her spirit is still here today, and she was the number one visited tomb before COVID in the country. And 3 years before that, they outlawed giving offerings, but everybody had went there, just like she went to others in her life, to get healings from the ancestors and ask for help. So she's still here.
And what about the pirate LaFitte? What was his role
He's
in life?
all over the place. He had a whole island not far away in Barataria Bay. He supplied goods and things that you couldn't get here normally when there were embargoes that were set up under the Spanish rules and others. And he was here right at the beginning of the American time, so he became a war hero, helping Andrew Jackson and giving him ammunition and knowledge of the swamps. And in the Battle of New Orleans in the War of 1812, and that's the one that everybody fought the common enemy shoulder to shoulder together. Slaves, everyone, white, black, brown, every color in between fought in that battle, and we won under insurmountable odds for that too. So he is kind of a traveler still around. He's stories of him from New Orleans to Barataria Bay to Texas, even to Mexico and up to St. Louis. Nobody really knows where he died, where he's buried, but his spirit still gets around. And Lafitte's blacksmith shop, I've been meeting my walking tours there for 20 plus years, but my van tours and other ones meet at the museum. But that was his old Creole cottage townhouse. His spirit is there for sure. I've run into it as well as his brothers and many others. So remember, we're the gateway to the Caribbean as a port town. We were the richest town in North America and richer in the Caribbean in the 1800s as well. And big money was here. So this is a place to be financed for outlandish schemes. This is a place to come and, hide your booty. This is the way that he brought things in and, hid them in farms and sold it to people without paying taxes. He had a purpose in that way, and he had a purpose politically. He did not consider himself a pirate. He did not like that word. He was a privateer, for he had letters of marque. And there is a subtle distinction, but in his spirit world, he will tell you that he is a privateer. So there's lots of parts and time for pirates in our history because of what was going on here. It was the perfect time and place.
Now, if I'm random Joe tourist and I come to you and you don't sense anything immediately off me that says I need to take him here, where are like the 3 to 5 places besides Laveau that you absolutely need to take every tourist on a New Orleans spirits tour?
Well, we said the Laveau, LaFitte's, those are your classics. Julie, the Ghost of Love, the roof on Royal Street. She is a spirit that's made sure that I've met everyone that lived there so I could still go visit her. And City Park, I'm a big one, and the most one that deals with the spirits in the old oak grove. So I want you to see the gorgeous 1,500 acre oak grove, which is the largest in the world. I'll show you the bayous. I'll show you that. And absolutely, I'll show you the cemeteries. We have the richest cemetery in North America here with multi-million-dollar tombs, and we have one of the poorest folk cemeteries, which is just so rich with sentiment and heart and culture. So, absolutely the cemeteries, those other places, and just the lay of the land. And I'll, make you eat certain things, tell you where to go, where not to go. And maybe I'll take you to see my house. We'll see.
I see. Okay. Now, the museum and the shop, where's that located? Is that in the
French Quarter on Rampart Street. Double Creole cottage, gorgeous, big, huge Creole courtyard, one of the best in the French Quarter, actually. Has several of the outbuildings still intact, the carriage house, the servants' quarters, etc. So it's on 826 and 828 North Rampart, directly across from Armstrong Park and Congo Square on the edge of the quarter, right around between St. Anne and Dumaine Street. So I've got a double building over there filled with ghosts and artifacts and stuff. And then I have, ways and means to pick you up, to take you on custom things in my van, or we could do walking things. I have classes, seances, readings. Everything is by reservation to ensure quality, except for the museum itself. For the daytime, you can just come on in. But I have a lot of after hours events, which is where we get into it. And I have
All right.
books.
Well,
And I have a big
yeah. Well,
website. And I have all that stuff.
yeah. I was just going to ask you how can they find you and tell me about the books.
BloodyMaryNewOrleans.com. That is a very, easy way to remember me. There's a museum side and a tour side, and then I'm launching a newer and easier access store within 10 days. There is a page right for a store on there now where you can get the book, but you'll be able to download my ebooks, which were at once a long time ago like coffee table paranormal blue books with ghost pictures and cemetery shots. Very risque. And then I have my Hauntings, Horrors, and Dancing with the Dead. That is, you could get on Amazon, but you could get an autograph from me. And then I have another book, Voodoo, Conjure, and Sacrifice. And I'm working on another one now. But you have to go to my TikTok because my TikTok's really good. And it's Bloody Mary NOLA, NOLA. That's New Orleans, Louisiana. So Bloody Mary NOLA. I have all kinds of cemeteries, all kind of snippets on my videos in there. And I will be reopening a live vlog and redoing my YouTube channel starting again in 9 days as well. So a lot of new things are happening in 9 days.
Wow. That's very exciting.
I think that's
now,
my
for those of
birthday
you,
too, and that was just an accident.
So those of you hearing this, when she says 9 days, it's actually going to be in the past.
Oh,
for
that's
when you
right.
hear it. It's going to be, so that's April 4th, April 5th?
Yeah, April 7th is my birthday, so yeah, it'll be ready by so by the time you're hearing this, you should be able to go right to my website and get all of those things, but definitely go to Bloody Mary NOLA whenever you can.
Are there any times of the year where the spirits are particularly riled up? Is it jazz, fest?
No.
Is it Mardi Gras? Is it Halloween?
Yes and no. They do like, Mardi Gras. I don't think they care about Jazz Fest one way or another. They do care about Halloween just because that is a truism of the veil being thin. However, those are exceedingly busy times in New Orleans. So as you know, anything is harder to connect with when there's distractions all over, but it is when they are very open. It's just that we're such a crowded time at that. When you want a really dead time so that you can feel all of us, you've got November, December, which is a quieter time for the living, so that you can notice the spirits around easier. But they're always here. But
so there's no bad time to check it out.
When it's too crowded, I think sometimes it is hard to contact. But definitely.
It's also hard to get around.
Yeah, and it's hard to get around, and there's human annoyances that could get in the way, or people that are just, you can't get food, you can't get cabs, you can't get around. So always, if you're coming for that time period, let's say Mardi Gras or Halloween, make sure you leave a few days after or a few days before the actual day of chaos, so that you did get to feel a little bit of the other part of New Orleans.
What is your favorite and least favorite representation of New Orleans paranormal in the media, movie, TV, something that people would know? Whether it's Interview with a Vampire, or True Blood or something like that.
I don't mind Interview with a Vampire. I don't. True Blood, I didn't watch as much. I watched the originals. I like the originals. I suppose American Horror Story was a little annoying in that truth was just not there, but yet it was something that I guess exposed people to a few things to open up a dialogue. But yeah, just people don't realize that these stories are fiction. I don't know when they stop understanding what fiction means, but a lot of times people think, oh, this is what it said, so this is what is true, and it's like, no. So I don't know what's super annoying. I suppose Angel Heart was a little annoying, if it's all dark, that it's all evil. Some of the documentaries, Frankenbit to Death, drive me crazy. I do a lot of TV shows, and they kind of edit you and make you say things you don't say, or the editor, if isn't there on the set and might put a picture of the wrong cemetery with your voiceover, but that's more annoying from my end. because I'll have to say, no, this is what it should have been. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are kind of annoying about the media and New Orleans. To get it all straight, there's quite a lot, but get the book.
Get the book, absolutely. What's the name of the books again?
Hauntings, Horrors, and Dancing with the Dead by Voodoo Queen Bloody Mary. That would be like Bloody Mary's guide, of New Orleans hauntings. That's the number one. And then the Paranormal Blue Book series will be an easier download ebook that you'll be able to get on my regular site, on my shop page of BloodyMaryNewOrleans.com. And my other book might be out by the time this gets out in October. I'm not quite sure. My new book.
Does it have a working title?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe.
All right.
But I'm keeping it under wraps. But
understood. Is there a TV show that you were on that you think represented you well and that you would refer people to?
Geesh. There are so many, and I don't know. I'm always a bad critic of myself. Because
Sure.
I'll also say, "Oh God, look at my hair, look at my eyes." So I guess that I did 4 or 5 different ghost adventures ones that people seemed to like. It didn't get all the details in there. There was one called Secrets of New Orleans on Travel Channel a while back that was really great because it went to so many different places. I should be in the new Nicolas Cage vampire movie coming out soon.
Oh, Renfield.
Yeah, I'll be in Renfield. They filmed in front of my shop, and they're watching me make a voodoo doll through the window. So we'll see how that is. So you can see me on that, but of course that doesn't represent what it's about. But yeah, get the app, get the book, Bloody Mary Tour on the App Store. I don't know what Paranormal Lockdown. They went inside my museum right when I was starting to build it, and he's got a new show too. BuzzFeed Unsolved. Everybody loves BuzzFeed Unsolved. That one is one that people go to quite a lot.
Excellent. Is there anything that I should have asked you or asked you about that I didn't?
Oh, I don't know. There's always so much. No, I mean, you seem to ask the right questions, but I still want to know why you don't have ghosts around you.
Oh, maybe I do.
But you're saying like, oh, you're waiting for them. Do you do ghost hunts?
I don't.
But you're just interested in this?
I'm interested in everything. Anything that's and it's not even that important what's interesting to me so much. It's what I think the audience would be interested in. And the audience that listens to a show called Garden of Doom absolutely would be interested in ghosts and and
a few monsters. Anything. Well, I don't think it's a Garden of Doom because I think that there's many worlds around us, and there is knowledge, love, light, gnosis, that we can share to become more one. We just have to start listening. Damn it.
Well, I think that's a great sentiment. And listen, I have to say that I had no expectations when I started this podcast. In fact, I didn't start the podcast. There was 2 of us that started it, and it's become a very different show since there was one of us, which is neither good nor bad. But they
get their own life. They evolve. The show becomes where it's supposed to.
And one thing I used to do when I had the co-host or when the co-host had me, whatever it was, is I would take sort of stories that were in the science world, but also sort of, tied into anything Garden of Doomy. So it could be something very sciencey, but it could also be something, that seemed like scientists were able to communicate with people in their dreams, or indication that energy flew from someone at the moment of death from the brain, stuff like that. Anything that came out, anything Origin of Man, whatever, all of that stuff. And I haven't done that so much because it's been very guest-led, and I've been so fortunate in getting excellent guests and referrals and return guests. But I sort of miss it because what I've learned is that the more that you parallel scientific developments in a certain area and learn more about religion crossing into sort of spirituality, and at some point, they really are getting less. There's almost no distinction at some point. Like the wall between them isn't a wall at all.
There shouldn't be a wall between them. People are just so much clinging on to this duality of things that it's got to be either or, and it does not. I know I know some cops who are also believing in the spirit world, some forensic that are in the spirit world, some scientists in the spirit world, and others that just say it can't be if this is. And that is the world that we need to try to loosen up a little bit, to know that we're all sharing things,
Absolutely.
for through every different science, whether it's magic, science, or spirit.
Right, and that's a lot why astrology is still around, because it's not just hocus pocus. It's a story that everyone in the world understood it at some point, and I guess depending on where you start, the story has its variations, but it's one story, and that's sort of part of the code there as well. So it's interesting that all these things you grow up and people say, "Oh, astrology, that's silly. Astronomy, that's the science."
Right.
Oh, well, no, astrology is a subdivision of astronomy, and it's a subdivision of theosophy and philosophy and theology and everything else. So it's all connected. So I think that ties in very well with what you said. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for
and
yeah.
hope to see you in New Orleans sometimes.
I can't wait. I am associated in my regular job that we have a client that is a client of many similar organizations around the country, and they often have conferences, and they have done it in New Orleans. And I'm hoping that they redo it in New Orleans. Obviously, well, not obviously, but there hasn't been one since COVID. And if there is one in New Orleans, I would like to see if I could help steer them towards, just a couple of shops I know and a couple of people I know down there to maybe organize some events.
I do events all the time. I do my NOLA Paracon. I keep it small. I have a paranormal convention. It's part of my Swamp Fest I do every June, and I do little sub fests around October and other times as well. So I definitely, on the special events, you should look, because I've got all kind of goodies, and I have room for other people to do the same.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to attempt to play an outro. It's going to sound really loud to you or me, but my experience is that it doesn't really record via this. So I put the volume real loud, but I'm going to just do my little exit statement. So I will again thank you once again.
Thank you.
And folks, thank you very much for listening to Garden of Doom. I hope that you will give us a rating, a review, refer us to your friends, give us 5 stars, and hopefully you will check out Bloody Mary's website and you will purchase her books and you would download both the books and get the app. And when you go down to New Orleans, definitely see her, visit the museum, and visit our friends also at Voodoo Authentica. And we thank everyone for being involved. So thanks very much. See you next time.